Hello Internet folk, hello to the Tiddlerhood, and hello to fans of BASIC everywhere. Um, just want to show you a third way of running BASIC applications within this BASIC Anywhere machine. I'd shown you how to run applications from the BASIC IDE, just using run and start. And I also showed how we can have an application and run it by actually looking at the tiddler and hitting the run button. Now I've got a third way, which is to launch a basic application that's inside a tiddler via another tiddler in which we can set up the settings for that application. So let me bring that tiddler up here. So we can set up some I don't know what quite to call it, let's say application launchers. And the beauty of it is that we can have the launcher provide you with a GUI to certain settings that you want for that application before you run it. So let's just take a peek at the application first. All this does is it draws some lines. A certain number of lines per batch, so 25 lines. And a new batch of lines is drawn on top of the current diagram every time we click. And I've specified a little delay so we have an opportunity to see each line getting drawn kind of quickly. If we specify 0 delay, and then we don't see, I guess, animation. And the lines pretty well get drawn at the speed of light. Now let's take a look at the basic application lines. And I'm not going to explain every basic command. To be honest, I haven't reviewed them all yet, so I'm not quite exactly sure what all they do. The screen sets us up so that we can do some drawing. And I'll explain what this again label is after. And I've got a variable to catch mouse button clicks a little later. We enter a loop, and that takes care of drawing our lines, random lines of random starting and end positions in random colors. And the number of lines drawn in this loop is between 1 and, so from 1 to this. And this is where we get a little bit of dynamic, I guess, dynamic changes to the basic application before it's fed to the interpreter. This says, look, for the current tiddler, and get max lines. And max lines happens to be a field inside this tiddler. And max lines is set via this interface. If we take a look at this tiddler, we see that we've got an edit text widget, and it sets the max lines field from the lines.bas tiddler. And it also provides us an edit text widget to set the delay between drawing of each lines. And here's the delay that is dynamically added to this application just before it gets executed. So this kind of shows us not only can we set up a basic program and embed with specific tiddlers and values that we may be setting manually in different places. We can also set up our basic programs to have dynamic values based on the values we enter inside of a form that we've built inside a tiddler in TiddlyWiki. So this is a third way of running applications, which is kind of setting the stage with a launcher with specific settings for every time we want to run Now let's see the behavior of this. Um, if we change it to, let's say, 100 lines, and let's put a tiny little delay so we can see some animation. And every time we click, we add another batch of 100 lines, and we can also hold down the click, and it'll just keep on adding lines over and over and over and over, batches of 100 without stopping or any delay at all between the batches. I'm going to leave it at that. Just, well, for those who are interested, I'll show a little bit of the mechanics going on here without going too deep. This run button, where does it come from? It comes from this line right here, which is a transclusion, and this is saying, hey, look, show me, well, it says show me the lines.bas tiddler, but show it via this template right here. And if we go take a look at the template, what this does, it says, hey, for the current tiddler, and in this context here, the current tiddler is lines.bas, says, okay, span, that's just some HTML to adjust the font size. So for the current tiddler, show us the current tiddler, but with this template right here, which is the Run Basic Program button. And the Run Basic Program button is something that I had set up earlier, and it's the button that shows up. It doesn't show anything here, but as you can see there, it is doing some stuff. It's the button that shows up on something like a .bas file. It's this run button right here. So the run button that I set up for the view template of a tiddler, and as well for the edit template of a tiddler, that same run button, I'm using it for another purpose, which is to embed that button inside of a tiddler meant to run, meant to apply to this specific tiddler right here. So yeah, that's kind of a off-the-cuff explanation of what's going on here. I'll try to do up some kind of nice little diagram that explains all that's going on here, and do that in a follow-up presentation or a follow-up video some other time. Anyway, again, this is just a neat way to run a basic application by providing it with I don't want to call it a GUI interface to the basic application, because once the application is run, there's no more interaction between the application that's running here and TiddlyWiki. They're now independent from each other. What TiddlyWiki does is it dynamically builds the HTML page that has the basic program and the JavaScript to interpret that basic program, and it feeds it into an iframe. But then this is its own thing anymore, and there's a total disconnect between these two guys running. So I don't want to call this a GUI. Let's just call this an application launcher. More to follow later. Cheers, everyone. Bye bye.